Hi everyone. So I've lost my voice in case you can't tell. All the touring and flying and talking to people, I think my voice finally gave out. Let's talk about the F word. So for so many people that we work with, the F word just ruins their life. And when I talk about the F word, I am talking about something far more toxic, believe it or not, than the curse word. I'm talking about failure. So when you think of failure and people who really allow failure to ruin their lives, it's just devastating. And that's why in our new book, The Brain Warrior's Way, we really encourage you to take the word failure out of your performance so that you're not thinking of the things you do as failure. When you don't do something right, don't think of it as failure. Think of it as falling. So in our program, there's no failing, there's only falling. And that's why we want you to do that, because every time you tell yourself you failed, you make it less likely that you're going to succeed in the future. So we want you to think of it as falling instead of failing. Now, it's really interesting because people actually have different reactions to failure. When they actually do think of it as failure, they have different ways of responding to it, different ways of reacting to it. So it turns out that there are a couple different ways people respond to failure. There are people who just tend to take action. They fail, they get up and they just go do it again, or they go do something else. And they don't think about it too much. They don't ruminate on it. And they tend to do much better with making mistakes than people who sit there and think about it, analyze, ruminate. The people who go over and over and over and over the failure or the mistake tend to make it worse going forward. They tend to almost ensure that they're going to perform worse at the same task going forward. So what we like to often say is, it's like, or if someone hurts you even, or you fall and you make a mistake, it's almost like you have made that same mistake 1,000 times in your head. Or if someone hurts you, well, they hurt you once, but you have hurt yourself 1,000 times in your head by thinking about the same thing over and over again and not disciplining your mind around it. So we want you to start disciplining your mind and not letting your mind go crazy with these mistakes. Or I'm going to stop using the word failure because I don't like to use that word failure. So think of it as a mistake or a falling. So another thing that determines how well you handle mistakes going forward is your self-efficacy, your sense of self-efficacy. Self-efficacy refers to your sense of yourself and how well you do things and how well you can handle things. So how you see yourself and your beliefs about yourself. So if you believe that you can do it better, that you can learn from your mistakes, you will. And if you don't, you won't. So we want you to start working on that sense of self-efficacy. And there are things you can do to build it up. Just like self-esteem, you can build it up or you can tear it down. And constantly telling yourself that you're a failure is going to tear it down, obviously. So that's why we put the new book in the framework of mastery. And it works for almost everything. So if you think about mastery in this sense, I practice martial arts and I love it. And one of the first things they taught us is how to fall. We're going to fall a lot. And that's why I want you to start thinking of your mistakes as falling instead of failing. Because when you fall, you just get back up. The only way you fail is if you don't get back up. So they taught us how to fall a lot, and how to get back up safely. And it's really important. So falling is critical. It's a critical life skill. You know, babies don't stop trying to learn how to walk because they fall. So think of that. But somehow in life, we've learned how to stop trying. So mindset, let's think of mastery for a minute. We want you to master this ability to get over falling, to not think of it as failing. So mindset, you have to know why it's important for you to try again. You have to know why it's important for you to get up and move on. If you don't know your why, you'll never do your what. So why must you do it? Get that firmly anchored in your head. And then you have to assess the situation. So you have to assess, why did you fall? What made it happen? You know, were you too tired? Were you overstressed? Were you, Did you have low blood sugar? Assess the situation and figure out why you fell. Did you have too much on your plate? Did you take too much on? Did you overcommit? And then the sustenance piece. We hound on this. I pound on it. I'm not going to stop. You have to eat to win. So you've got to eat the right foods. You have to eat to win. Foods that are going to help you succeed. You can't let your blood sugar get too low. But you also don't want to eat foods that are going to cloud your judgment. And food matters. It matters a lot in how you perform. You got to stay hydrated as well. Training, those are your daily habits. So another thing I love about martial arts, it takes training. It takes training to get good at it. It's those daily habits. You have to practice it a lot to get good at it. Same thing with anything you're trying to master. So in trying to do the Brain Warriors way, you have to train a lot. So one thing I love about this, when I was training to get my black belt, I was training pretty hard for a lot of years, and I got hurt several times. So I got stress fractures in my foot. I had broken a rib. I got a hairline fracture in my rib. So in doing that, one thing that I learned that was really important, because a lot of people are like, well, why would you do something like that and, get hurt? That seems like a bad sport, but it's not. I love it. It's symbolic of overcoming and never giving up, number one. But number two, it taught me this really important life lesson. My fear of pain, my fear of getting hurt was far worse than actually getting hurt. So that was a huge life lesson for me. Your fear of failure, your fear of falling is worse than actually falling or actually failing and getting up and starting over. It's our fear that holds us back. And as soon as I got that out of my system and got hurt, I'm like, okay, so what? I got hurt. I can obviously handle that. If you can have a baby, you can do almost anything anyways, right? So it's our fear that holds us back. So that was a really important lesson for me. That's the T in mastery. Essence is also one of the most important parts, because especially when it comes to falling or failing, as some of you call it, essence is turning it around. It's turning that pain into purpose. So you can use that to help other people. Whatever you have experienced and learned, as long as you learn from those falls, you can then use that to help other people. And that's really important, because when you teach other people is when you actually learn the most. And then responsibility. I'm huge on responsibility. I think it's one of the most important pieces in our program. It's the ability to respond. It's the ability to get up, do it again, and respond to your situation. So it's not just about you, it's about generations of you. It's about making the world a better place and getting out of the victim role. So as long as you're in the victim role, you can never win. You have to take responsibility, which means your ability to respond. Doesn't mean you have to take blame. It just means you have to be empowered enough to move on. And then the why is years long. So that's how you gain mastery over the F word. So I hope this has been helpful. If it has, you will get a lot of this information and so much more. We're so excited about our new podcast. If you can join us, brainwarriorswaypodcast.com. We had so much fun recording 4 sessions with Dr. John Townsend on boundaries for teens, on entitlement, which I think is such an important issue in our society. So join us if you can on our new podcast, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.